Welcome back to our continuing special coverage of this Republican convention. Jason Johnson is back with us, and I want to bring in Maria Teresa Kumar, President and CEO of Voto Latino and a contributor for us. Good to see you both. I want to begin with something where there are convention moments that can go viral or become memes for all kinds of reasons. Here's one where Tiffany Trump may have meant well. I want to be clear. She may have meant well, trying to find some common ground with people searching for jobs. However, her new comments here at the convention about this punishing recession that has many people out of work and in line for food banks, this is already drawing notice.
Like so many students across the world, I graduated from law school during the pandemic. As a recent graduate, I can relate to so many of you who might be looking for a job. My father built a thriving economy once, and believe me, he will do it again.
Jason?
Yeah, I do empathize. I have a lot of students who recently graduated, didn't find a job, but most of my kids can't call their dad in the White House and get a job. I mean, Donald Trump has hired all of his children. I understand she's making this attempt to sound like a regular person, but she was born into a ridiculous amount of wealth. And honestly, Ari, I don't even think this is just sort of well-intentioned and tone deaf. It's gaslighting. It is gaslighting for anybody in the Trump family to pretend that they were not born into wealth. We may question whether or not Donald Trump is totally stacking dollars the way he claims he is, but you can't claim that you are graduating from college or law school in the Trump family and you're on LinkedIn looking for jobs like regular people. I don't know who that was for, but it's not for the people who I know who have lost work or the people who I know who are struggling to get back to work with diminished hours.
Right, and there are a lot of ways to try to give voice to that real problem, which is in, of course, as you mentioned, her father's America, her father's economy, without trying to claim you're too close to it if you're not. I want to get into something else that we've covered earlier tonight, but we haven't shown all of it. And Maria, I want you to really give us some context here, because you have the president wielding pardon power at the convention. Now, this pardon was to John Ponder. He served 4 years after robbing a bank and then started a nonprofit prisoner reentry program.
John's life is a beautiful testament to the power of redemption. In the last 10 years since John was released, he has created one of the most successful reentry programs, Hope for Prisoners in Las Vegas.
I gave my life to Jesus and made him a promise that I would spend the rest of my days helping others like me.
So now I'd like to invite John's wife, Jamie, to join us as I grant John, I'm not sure you know this, a full pardon.
Like a rose ceremony, Maria, but it's not a joke. It's a total partisan exploitation of one of the unitary powers of the president.
This whole Republican convention has been exactly that. Jay Johnson mentioned earlier this whole idea of gaslighting, what was happening earlier on Tiffany looking for a job. This whole RNC convention is gaslighting the American people, because as he's pardoning John, in this case for his convicted felonies of bank robbery, he at the same time had appointed an attorney general who gutted all of low-level offenses that the Obama administration had placed in place to ensure that people who had low-level offenses such as marijuana possession did not serve maximum prisons. The same thing can be said for the sham of a naturalization ceremony, when we know that there's hundreds of thousands of individuals who are also eligible for naturalization, but in some cases their close immigration agency has been shuttered because they've been furloughed. So one thing after another, we have to take everything with a grain of salt, because what we have seen this president do in the White House, what we saw Pompeo do today with the State Department, is using the positions of public servitude, of why we position ourselves and actually vote people into office as Americans, for personal political gain. And that is not only unseemly, but in some cases you're going to have to scratch the surface and say, is it actually lawful?
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. Look, I've run state-level campaigns. You worry about making fundraising phone calls from your local state senator's office, and these guys are literally running campaign commercials from the White House. I mean, that's what makes this so ridiculous. And again, his use of official power, his use of official, how many pardons you got? A lot, because every single time he seems to run into a black person, he wants to hand out a pardon, while at the same time empowering law enforcement officials to jail and abuse use and take advantage of black people at a criminal justice level on a local level that we have not seen in 25 years. That is part of what makes this so offensive, that Donald Trump thinks that the levers of government are only to be used at his benevolence and when it suits him in the polls, not as a general policy for how people are supposed to be treated.
For those playing hip-hop convention bingo at home, you have Jason Johnson scoring his second there. It was Ashanti earlier in the program. How many pardons you got? A lot. That would be a recent 21 Savage bop. Let's take a listen to conservative Sissy Graham Lynch on the culture wars.
Democrats pressured schools to allow boys to compete in girls' sports and use girls' locker rooms. They will force the choice between being obedient to God or to Caesar, because the radical left's God is government power.
Maria, what did you think of that?
I think it's the same thing. It's this idea of creating cultural wars and division instead of actually looking at the issues that are impacting every single American right now. We have lost 178,000 lives. We are on the brink of a depression because the president has not been able to control the pandemic. We have millions of children about to go into schools, and parents have no idea if they can send them there because it is so unsafe. Instead of addressing the actual issues, his agenda for the future, what he does is create these cultural divisiveness, because then he actually doesn't have to address the malpractice that's happening right now from the White House, from his office. He is not meant to be in office because he actually does not have the capacity to understand being a public servant. He does not understand what it means that when you are the president, you are the president for all Americans. And he uses these individuals to basically provide information that is not only not the totality of the issue that's happening, but only lives in sound bites, so that we repurpose it and actually make it as if it was a fundamental policy of his. None of this is. All of it is a bait and switch, and we have to make sure that we continue keeping him accountable.
Maria Teresa Kumar, Jason Johnson, very clear analysis and constructive criticism. I want to thank you both.